I want to congratulate former Vice President Joe Biden on his election as the next President of the United States, and Senator Kamala Harris on her election as Vice President. I also want to congratulate the voters of our country who turned out in record numbers to support our American institutions and traditions. I want the President-elect and his Vice President to know that I will support their program in the many areas where I believe they are correct and oppose them in areas where I believe they are wrong. I will support efforts to deal with racial injustices. Over the last couple of weeks, I have been studying the recently released Contract with Black America, and I intend to continue working through its many sections, writing about them as I go. We cannot waste another generation kicking these inequities down the road. I will support science-based solutions to our climate crisis. I may even push the Biden administration to go faster than you have expressed a willingness to go. We are at a triage moment, as evidenced by the worst hurricane season we have ever had, the worst fire season on record, and the collapse of ice shields and wildlife populations around the globe. I will support a revision of our system of healthcare insurance so that every American can be covered, so doctors can be freed from paperwork to give their attention to patients, and businesses and workers can be free of insurance considerations to make personnel decisions based on market forces. I will add the caveat that killing babies is not healthcare. Indeed, one of the brightest developments from this week's election is that voters doubled the number of pro-life women in Congress, adding at least 13 new pro-life women to the 11 incumbents who were re-elected. 8 more pro-life women are in races that have not yet been called. There has been a myth that the pro-life movement has been men trying to control women's bodies. That has never been true. Women have always been the backbone of the pro-life movement. This week, I believe the blue wave that Democrats had hoped for had its life cut short, partly due to its radical pro-abortion agenda. Although the election has now been called for the Biden-Harris ticket, I believe it is still important that every legal vote be counted and reported. Due to the fact that in many states I was listed as a write-in candidate, it may be January or February before I discover my vote totals. And even then, those totals will be incomplete. In Maine, West Virginia, North and South Carolina, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, and Montana, I was not on the list of accepted write-in candidates. Yet I have received messages from voters in each of those 8 states telling me that they wrote us in, even knowing that our results will not be tabulated in those states. We need to reduce existing barriers that prevent new parties from getting their candidates onto the ballot. Election reform is a major need in this country, beginning with ranked choice voting and open debates that include all the candidates who have qualified in enough states to be theoretically eligible for 270 electoral votes. On my wedding day, as part of the ceremony, I was supposed to go down and greet the immediate family members sitting in the front pew. I was running on adrenaline and autopilot, and once I got down there, I couldn't stop. I went back 6 or 8 rows shaking hands. I still get kidded about that 47 years later. I am afraid that if I start thanking the people who helped in this campaign, the same thing will happen. There are so many and I won't know where to stop. But certainly, I must thank my wife for her support. I must thank Amar Patel. Choosing Amar for vice president was the best decision I made through any of this campaign's last 2 years. I also must thank Desmond Silvera, my invaluable campaign manager. I want to thank the committee that produced the best party platform in America, and each of the National Committee members that brought our party to its current level. I want to thank the committee members in each of the states and those who carried around petitions and who volunteered to serve as electors. I want to thank the notaries at my local credit union who verified my signatures on an endless stream of documents. I want to thank the many journalists who reported favorably about our party and our campaign. Then there are the hundreds of people who shared our posts or talked about us to their friends and neighbors, who donated money or distributed yard signs, who listened attentively to our interviews, or simply voted for us. I want to thank everyone who gave us honest consideration, even if they ended up voting for someone else. You have all contributed to making the American Solidarity Party the fastest growing political party in America, and deservedly so. I also want to thank two other candidates, Kanye West and Jade Simmons. They have similar approaches to the same problems, and though Kanye will finish ahead of me and Jade behind, together we offered voters a whole life alternative to the duopoly parties. As of Tuesday evening, I am a former candidate for president. I officially retired from my teaching career 18 months ago, so I will soon be able to act retired. There are loose ends to tie up and reports to file. Then I will move on to other unfinished projects around the house and yard and some writing projects. I hope to rename my Facebook page and website and continue to write posts and commentary. I also have an unfinished novel. 50 years ago, on my very first date with the woman who became my life partner, I showed her the beginnings of a novel about California during 1 week in 1966, during the election where actor Ronald Reagan was challenging Governor Pat Brown. Cesar Chavez was in Delano, working to gain rights for grape workers, and the novel addresses several topics that the American Solidarity Party lumps together as life issues, along with much of the turmoil that was California in 1966. Vicki married me so she could find out how the story ends, and we have lived quite a story ourselves, but I owe it to her to finish the novel. I almost finished it 12 years ago as a master's thesis, but after discovering the American Solidarity Party, I also realized that it is a remarkably solidarian novel. Again, I congratulate our newly elected president and vice president. I also congratulate our country, which now has an unbroken string of elections held every 4 years and reaching back 242 years. Thank you.